advance, just say so.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. Thanks. I'll kick it off here. Welcome to our alumni and our friends of alumni. It's really nice to see so many people in the community as well as engaged with our community. So thanks for joining us today. I'm Allie Spain. I'm the Executive Director of the Microsoft Alumni Network. And I'm really excited about today. As you can see, it's going to be very informal the next hour. David is so wonderful. This is a chat amongst friends, as he says. If you're not familiar with the Alumni Network, we're a member organization. We're separate from the company, but we're sponsored and would sit at Microsoft. So we do the work of Microsoft's alumni programs, but we also are a member organization. So we communicate to about 48,000 alumni in 52 countries around the world. We are quite a force to be reckoned with. I believe it's one of the most powerful professional networks, I think, on this planet. I'm not biased, but I actually think that this organization is very, very impactful. I was telling David earlier, in China, for example, most of the 80% of the unicorns with $1 billion or more valuation are Microsoft alumni. In the UK, most businesses in the London area that are technology based are Microsoft alumni. We are business owners, we are technology decision makers, we're consumers, we are nonprofit volunteers and philanthropists as well. So it's a really impactful community that when we come together, we can make big things happen. So I'm really excited for today's session. David and I have wanted to do this for some time. David is the director of the Voices for Innovations, which is a Microsoft community of technology professionals who work towards advancing really the public policies that impact the technology sector and vice versa. David's going to share with us all of the policies that they're working on now, but things like broadband access and protecting our data privacy and et cetera. This is really a unique opportunity to have David and his team in person and so informal to have this conversation with. So it's a really great opportunity. We're going to use the chat. So if you have any questions or comments, please use the chat, but also just raise your hand because as David said, you're amongst family and we're going to keep this super informal. On the next slide, or actually staying on this slide, I want to just share why I think the Alumni Network, why Voices for Innovations is so important for us. It's an important partner because we collaborate, they curate all of the important resources to keep us informed, and we then in turn deliver those to our alumni community. But more importantly, they're our vehicle for aggregating our collective voice as alumni community so that we can have a louder voice together. And when you knit together the other organizations like IAMCP and Women in Cloud, when we all come together, we have a bigger voice. And of course, we all know that that's what you need to have any kind of impact in public policy. So this is a really unique opportunity. So thank you, David, for joining us today and being a partner with us. I do want to just share a few thoughts about why I think we need to be more involved with the policymakers and using our Microsoft experience. Like I said, I believe that this is really one of the most powerful networks, professional networks that exist. We have this really unique experience of having worked at the company. We've played the inside baseball. We understand the insider's view. We understand the partner ecosystem and all the things that make the technology industry tick. And while we were at Microsoft, we were technology evangelists. But when you leave Microsoft, you become technology advocates. And VFI is our platform for becoming technology advocates and really working towards those issues that Microsoft cares about. So this is a really unique opportunity for us. Now, as alumni, we watch the industry from outside the company, but that doesn't mean that we need to be less involved or less informed about those big issues. And so, in fact, I would argue that we actually need to become more informed as business owners, as startup founders, as conscientious consumers, and trusted advisors. I mean, I don't know about any of you guys, but I know my neighbors and friends and family always ask me, how should I feel about this big issue? How should I feel about access to broadband in the rural communities? I grew up in Iowa. So I have people asking me these questions. I want to be informed and give them the right answers and the right resources to go be informed as well. And so VFI, that's how I personally use VFI. So it's such an important resource. So I'm really glad for us to be a part of this today. Last thing I will say is, our experience at Microsoft gave us all privilege. in various levels and forms. And I personally believe it's our responsibility to take that out into the world and make good, right? We don't get paid to make good and to really be advocates for this work. But I think it's our responsibility because we do have that Microsoft experience and that perspective and the technology knowledge. And so I challenge all of us today to get more involved with VFI, to do the right things, to stay informed. And throughout today, David will curate up how we all can stay more informed and get engaged. And on an ongoing basis, make sure VFI, we are good advocates for the policies that they're really doing really hard work on. So with that, I will quit talking. David, I'm going to let you take it from there. And we're just so thankful for you sharing the hour with us.
Thank you, Ms. Allie. We are really looking forward to that. The VFI team, we've been working on this presentation because we do believe, Microsoft Alumni Network is one of the most powerful. It can be one of the most powerful tools in the ecosystem, especially when you look around the screen, and how you don't get to say that often, but you look around the screen and you see, Craig has not joined this call before, but I'm going to pick on him because Craig and I used to go to the Senate side when he was doing issues at Microsoft, and we had a lot of crazy meetings on the Senate side advocating for Microsoft's top policy priorities. Craig, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. It's terrific to see you, David. And I will echo that people in positions of policy making or policy evaluation really are interested in what we have to say, what we think, and how we're thinking about some of these problems. I got a million other questions for you, David, but I'll just stop right there.
No, Craig. Listen, I just saw. I did not pay Craig to come on the show today, but Craig and I used to go to Capitol Hill. What most people don't know, I was a Senate lobbyist for Microsoft and took Brad and Craig and other Microsoft execs to the Hill when they came to town from Redmond, and they shared their views, and that is where I learned a lot of this great stuff. Now, as managing voices for innovation, we empower other voices. That's your voice, that's Vince, that's people like Joe and others who are passionate about tech issues to get engaged. And I'm gonna pick on people. You know, I like to pick on folks. There's a lot of great folks on the call. But let me stress what Allie already said. We are a community, and our goal is to bond together more closely. We are a Microsoft-centric community and family, but we welcome anybody that cares about technology, advocacy, and frankly, civic engagement to get involved in Microsoft, to get involved in VFI. There are no fees. It is free. There's no obligations there's no metrics. This is a voluntary organization. We are nonpartisan. We represent what we think, what Microsoft thinks are the best issues to try to move the needle on Capitol Hill, in state capitals, and frankly, in your own backyard. It could be your school board or your town council. And there's a lot of folks that have joined VFI that have actually been inspired to run for public office. So let me do this. If I could, I would like to, just for a moment, I want to pick on Vince. Vince is a former Microsoftie, and you were there 9 years, I believe, Vince. Vince has an amazing tech podcast called The Ultimate Guide to Partnering. And I just think he's a great example. You've been involved in VFI longer than I have, Vince. So do you mind sharing just why you got involved with VFI? And please do a brief thing on your podcast. We'd love to hear about it.
Thank you, my friend. Yeah, so a lot of great friends here, both VFI, IAMCP, and alum. But 9 years at Microsoft, I've described my career as 4 successful business transformations. I started the podcast when I left Microsoft because I intuitively knew that partners struggled working with the tech giant. We all been in the four walls. We understand it better. And that was to inform the ecosystem. I got involved in VFI while I was still at Microsoft because foundationally I understood that the civic engagement was critical and important. And I have fundamentally believed that we in the tech sector have both an opportunity and an obligation to lead at this time. We're seeing this now, right? I mean, the disparity between a Microsoft and a Facebook or a Meta is dramatic. And I think that we come at it from a cloud for good, from trying to do good within the world. And I love the messaging within the Microsoft ecosystem. I got involved with another organization, Blackbaud, which was the largest software company in nonprofits. I left there during COVID and brought back the podcast with a renewed conviction around this obligation and opportunity and obligation, and also to lift all voices. And if you look at my podcast, you'll see that it represents a diverse group of individuals from all walks of life. I've been a strong advocate for women in technology, women in the cloud. Chaitra, who's been a guest on the podcast, also on the call here today. Also a big advocate for IAMCP. Eddie, our episode is going to launch in a couple weeks, hopefully. But also believe in helping this community. We have such a strong voice to share, and we can all do good together. I believe there's a great alignment also within the clients that I work with around civic and government affairs. And as David will share, I've already brought some people to the VFI community through the work that I do as a consultant, helping tech partners. So thank you very much, David.
And Vince, I encourage you to, drop a link to your podcast in the chat.
Absolutely.
It's really fun to listen to. It's very tech centric. You don't have to be a Microsoftie or a man member to listen to it, but it is all technology issues. So feel free to drop that in the chat.
I will do that. Thank you.
You mentioned a couple of things, Vince. Allie mentioned this. We align and encourage a knitting together of some of these Microsoft-centric communities. You mentioned a few of those communities, but let me tick them off because we have reps from all those folks on the call right now. The IMCP, Eddie, I'm going to pick on you to say something in just a moment. Chaitra runs Women in Cloud. She, of course, has her own very successful Microsoft partner business, and represents a lot of big clients, but she also represents Women in Cloud. Chaitra, I know you're on the call. I'm going to ask you to say something. We work closely with Women in Tech, which Christine Bongard, all of you know Christine and the great work that she does. And Nyasha is here representing the Black Channel Partner Alliance. I'm going to pick on all of you today just as we go, just kind of speed through this hour, but I want to give good examples of why, if you're not already involved, we'll hope you join VFI, and we'll hope you join MAN or IMCP or BCPA or all of them. They're all great orgs. But the bottom line is we lift each other up as a joined force versus trying to do all of these things by ourselves. Chaitra, I know you're on the board at the Alumni Network. And can you just kind of talk about some of the great stuff that you are doing? And let me just, if I can, Chaitra, you may want to go off screen because I'm going to embarrass you. Chaitra is what I would call a super advocate. She is incredible. Anybody that has worked with her knows exactly what I'm talking about. She is a force of nature. We love you. Thank you for all you do. But first, tell us about Women in Cloud and why you started.
Thanks, Ali and David. I was blushing, like this is like a raving comments. I need to have more of those during the times when you are, feeling low. So thank you for doing that and lifting me up today. So first is thank you for having me and being in the Microsoft Alumni Board. First is it's really fortunate to really serve, I would say 50,000 members on I would say a daily basis, yearly basis, and really creating a very powerful community, as Ali said, is really focusing on how do we get engaged and drive the impact that we all want to have and really impact the goals that we are striving to achieve. So I left Microsoft, I would say 9 years ago or 8 years ago. I cannot remember that. And as I left, I started with a goal to be an entrepreneur, imagine from a Microsoft employee to become an entrepreneur. It's a very big shift. I didn't even know how to operate the printer really well. So that was kind of how the journey was. But as I said, I wanted to be an entrepreneur to go win an enterprise contracts and build a cloud business. And it was extremely hard as a woman, couldn't raise funding, couldn't get access to it. So that's how I kind of went and found that there were no communities out there for supporting the women entrepreneurs to be successful in a $1 trillion economy. So that was the genesis of Women in Cloud, with the audacious goal to create $1 billion in economic access by 2030 in the enterprise ecosystem. And we are growing at a steady rate, and we have helped many entrepreneurs go through a business accelerator, which allows them to strongly partner with Microsoft and really co-sell with them effectively. So one of the companies just was acquired by Neiman Marcus. And we have many companies which are raising anywhere from $2 million to $5 million in Series A funding, which was not possible. And even Satya actually announced that during the Microsoft Inspire, one of the entrepreneurs was among the 50 companies, and there was only one woman entrepreneur on that list. And it's all because of the work we have done. Now with David, he actually inspired us to do something pretty cool, is to do workforce development, making sure women can get back into the tech industry. And as we worked through it, he was absolutely instrumental in helping us secure the first 650 scholarships for women to get access to the fundamentals of Azure, Azure AI, and Azure Cloud. And within 4 weeks, we had 2,000 requests come in across the world in 58 countries. And that, what we realized was that was a missing gap. Yes, there are amazing training courses and stuff, but the affordability to get trained on the new technologies does not exist. So as part of this work, the life-changing stories that are coming for women who are going through the certification, getting trained and getting them into the jobs in less than 3 to 6 months has been stellar work, right? I would say everyone is working, the communities are working hard, the Microsoft ecosystem is coming to support, and our community is able to really do a clearinghouse of these scholarships. Now, because of that success, we were able to take an initiative in India, and we rolled out a digital skilling initiative. And we were able to roll out the first center of excellence for cloud, AI, and cyber for women in India, which has never happened. So with a university. And then we were able to raise a 500 scholarship to do it. And that's just the start of the journey. But what I realized through this whole work as we are doing is $1 billion impact. We are able to drive business acceleration and workforce development. And the communities that are required to make that possible is Microsoft Alumni Network, the BCPA, the Women in Tech Network, IMCP, VFI, all were coming together to really rally this whole journey, like one direction that we can go together and still support. And through the process, we were able to influence the policies too, to advocate the policies. So David, all those 600 women who have got the scholarship and they are going to get into the tech jobs, the credit goes to you because it was your idea to make that possible. So that's the power of collaboration and partnership. And when you start to give, the world becomes amazing. So thank you.
Well, Chaitra, if those women learn anything, if they learn one thing from you, they're going to be the greatest advocates on earth. I want to sign up every one of those folks. Chaitra and I talk a lot about skilling initiatives, and it's digital skilling specifically. And that is the reason for that is one of our core issues in U.S. government affairs at Microsoft is the digital workforce. And I had a great chat the other day with Mark Hoppers from Avanade. He is not on this call today, but Mark, we had a one-on-one in-person lunch, one of my first lunches with another human being besides my family. And Mark and I talked about the challenge is that Avanade is one of Microsoft's biggest partners. And I said, what's the challenge? He said, the talent pipeline. We cannot fill it. We cannot find the workers. We cannot train them fast enough. So Mark and I are going to try to cook up a skilling program. Chaitra, guess what? You may be involved. You never know. But Microsoft is so focused on filling that talent pipeline, not just with cloud-based skills, but frankly, just connecting to the internet or learning how to open a browser or just connect to Wi-Fi. You would be surprised at what those needs are out there, especially in underserved communities. And I'm going to get to Joe in just a minute on that topic. But what I wanted to do was I've decided to kind of throw my slide deck out the window. I'm sorry, Doug. But I wanted to focus on the few issues that we really focus on at Microsoft and Government Affairs, and that is privacy. And I've actually written these behind me to remind me every day what are the core priorities. And that is cybersecurity. It is privacy, having a federal privacy standard. We've been doing a lot of great work in states on advancing privacy initiatives in various states. A lot of you have been involved in that. Thank you. I mentioned cybersecurity. Digital skilling is something that is huge, and that's part of our workforce commitment. Broadband opportunity for everyone is critical to the tech ecosystem. I don't care if you're at Amazon. I don't care where you work. If you're in the tech ecosystem, you have to have broadband to get access. You have to have cloud, Azure services, or Amazon, or whatever it is. You have to have access to the cloud to get a job these days. So we're working on that. So those are a few issues that we really work on. When you do join VFI, like I said, we send you, there is no obligation. We don't say, okay, you're off the team if you don't sign our letters, in the first year or whatever. What we want to do is advance these policies. Doug is dropping some things in the chat on data privacy, on broadband. This takes you right to the VFI website. There's also a join button if you will join. I know most of you are actually already members. But what we really want to do for MAN is we want to partner with MAN to help them with their advocacy voice and their advocacy network. With 20,000 or 30,000 MAN members, I can never keep it straight, Allie. That community is a ready-made base of advocates that know the tech ecosystem. We want you engaged in that ecosystem and sharing your voices. Now, if I could, I would love to pick on Eddie, my dear friend, Eddie Bader. You and I have been working on some fun stuff together. I want to turn the floor over to you for 2 minutes and talk a little bit about IMCP and our just collaboration with the rest of these great entities that are on the call today.
Yeah, thanks, David. I appreciate it and appreciate being invited to the meeting today. So for most of you, IAMCP is an association of channel partners. We're really focused on driving business opportunities for one another and understanding how to best work together. I think the opportunities are out there, are easier to get when we collaborate instead of compete. So it's really what we're focused on. One of the strong underpinnings of the community these days is the diversity, equity, inclusion, and that has many different pillars. But working with Christine and Chaitra and Nyasha and Frank, I think we've come together and just tried to bring these partner communities together and really focus on our collaborative goals. One of the other things that we're trying to do is to help, along with David's support and guidance, and again the community leaders from the other partner communities, is just really drive this digital skilling, this actually opening up this industry to more people, and understanding what different people need, whether it's access, whether it's special delivery of materials, really trying to meet people where they are and give them an opportunity to share in this digital economy. So with that, I'd like to kind of share a little bit of this time with Jennifer Didier, who's on the call with us today. She's a brilliant learning partner in the Microsoft ecosystem. She's also part of Women in Technology, and she's leading our tech equity program. Jennifer, I was wondering if you might share a little bit about that.
Sure. Thank you, Eddie.
Sure.
I guess I'll turn my camera on. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Didier. I run a technical training company for 30 years. This year, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. But I'm also the chair of the Tech Equity Committee for IMCP. And we're very excited because we've been providing skilling for underserved communities and focused on, areas that really need the skilling. But now we have expanded the Tech Equity with a board of advisors. And these are communities outside that are actually focused on underserved communities. So like the Urban League, IC Stars, a couple community colleges, high schools. So we had just put together our board of advisors of six individuals from different communities, and understanding what their reach is and where their challenges are, and meeting them to help them not only with skilling, but with broadband access and devices as well. So we're very excited to branch out and understand what those communities need, and then providing them with the resources that are needed and funding those through several different corporate sponsors.
Thank you, Jennifer. I love what you are doing. It is just thrilling to support your group and your great work in tech equity. Thank you very much. I do want to say the tech equity piece, and just focused on the underserved. This is not, you will not see this on my board. What you may see on my board is civic engagement. And what that really means is just getting engaged in your community. It may be we have our friend Bill Hole, who many of you know, ran for the school board in his backyard. Doug, I'm trying to remember the county where he lives and represents, but he ran for the school board. But it's just a great example of finding your passion, getting engaged, and then doing, serving others in ways that rise everybody up within the tech ecosystem. So on that note, we have been doing a lot around equity and diversity, equity and inclusion. I know my friend Naisha is on the call. He has been engaged, deeply engaged, with our good friend Frank Valdivieso, who could not join today, in forming something called the Black Channel Partner Alliance. And Naisha, I know you were on there. You are. Can you just give this group just a 1-minute description of what BCPA is and why you are doing it?
One minute. Thanks for the time, David. And Dr. Taitra, no doubt. Fantastic. Very cool. So I will go to slides because I'm cheap like that, and I think it's helpful. So let me just show. So this is the scenario that we found ourselves in over the last year. I go to Inspire and various other conferences and be alone. And the estimate is that 0.05% of Microsoft partners are in fact black owned, right? Out of those, if you look at gold partners that have enrolled for the Microsoft initiatives, there might be 20 to 25 so far out of 1,000. So the state of black owned partners in the Microsoft ecosystem is unacceptable, essentially. So we decided to form an organization to support and grow these partners. And that organization is called the Black Channel Partner Alliance. It's a community of CEOs of Black-owned tech companies pushing and challenging each other. And over the next 3 years, we're going to base our approach on these pillars. So economic empowerment, helping those business owners grow their businesses, community technology adoption. So nonprofits that are Black and either in the Black community or serving the Black community are in the dark ages as far as technology. So we would like to have our partners collaborate with them on improving. So through NTA and other programs with Microsoft, this is something already underway. Then we have workforce development. So we're collaborating with Women in Cloud and Chaitra to do some upskilling. Thanks to VFI and IAMCP, we have some funding available for 20 scholarships. And this is critical because these three things tie in together. We give people the ability to get their first job working with a partner who we're also helping to drive revenue through. Our 3-year goals up here, so help 100 partners add 100 million in revenue across the partners, create 800 technology jobs, and then perform 1,000 digital transformations for those community organizations. I will say part of the reward of these initiatives is that I'm engaging every day with partners. We're introducing a partner tomorrow to an opportunity that's upwards of $100,000 with a large ISV. And so our ability to connect and engage those partners who've often found themselves alone and unsupported is something that, we are fortunate in that we have access to people like David, who wrote us our first $10,000 check to allow me to be able to set up the organization without ponying up for legal services.
Well, David didn't write that check. I would say that working with IMCP and VFI.
There you go. Working with IMCP and VFI and some really cool people. But we had our first 10 participants. I just noticed my camera's blurry. Come through an accelerator, and we have 25 lined up for our next accelerator. So we're really moving along in giving access, and we'd love all of your support to be able to help us move this journey along.
So this is just another example of why to get involved in VFI, or get directly involved in BCPA with Nyasha and Frank. And there's a young man on the call that I just met last week, and he came through another VFI friend, John Nicolo in Chicago. But Donovan, I don't know if you're on the call, but I'm glad you joined, because Donovan, you and I talked about economic empowerment. And what you are doing in Nashville is just so interesting, and I think really ties in well. Donovan, I don't know if you're on the call still, but I did want to recognize you. You, Nyasha, Frank, Jennifer, and Eddie, we're all going to talk on the phone, I believe, this week or next week about what you are doing in Nashville. But the beauty of VFI, you get to meet these people that are doing incredible things, advocates that are passionate about the tech ecosystem. So that's why we are here. Thank you very much. I'm going to show a slide in a few moments, and then I'm really just going to kind of stop talking and let others chime in, because I do think that the Q&A is where we really learn how to help each other. I do want to say before Craig drops off, if you do, Craig, I want to take you anywhere, to Capitol Hill, to state capitals. You are an informed, smart Microsoft attorney. You are just, you are someone that knows these issues intimately. So please, I hope I'll see more involvement from you and VFI. Your skills and knowledge and knowledge base of these issues would just be so helpful. But it's great to see you, Craig. I'm not trying to pick on you. I just want to
thank you. No, I'd be delighted. I'll reach out a little bit more directly what I'm working on these days. As you know, I'm often wrong but never in doubt, so I'm happy to talk.
Well, thank you, Craig. It was always fun to work with you, and I look forward to working with you in the future.
Likewise. Yeah.
And David,
yes.
David, if I could just thank you. It's Donovan. I am on the call, and thank you very much for the acknowledgement. And I look forward to working with everyone. And thank you for inviting me and providing me access to this network. Thank you.
Well, Donovan, Donovan is working on this incredible model of, and I call it, instead of just giving a man a fish, you teach him how to fish. It's about economic empowerment. And I hope I didn't butcher your model, but
no.
Without going into that, there's some folks on this call that we are going to connect you with. We think we can help you in various ways. It may not be with money, but it will be with talent and passion and trying to move the needle. There's also a young man on this call that I've just met. I really don't know him very well, but his name is Joseph Carigliano. He came through another partner, Vince. I can't remember who Joe came through. But he and I have had some great calls. Joe, do you mind if I pick on you for just a minute and tell them what you and I are working on?
Yeah, definitely. Hi, everybody. I'm grateful to be on this call with this audience. I logged in and one of my best friends, Vince, is smiling at me. So I feel very at home. And I'm grateful to have met David because what David and I have been working on is I live here in Southern California, and, you know, divine intervention, the Lord's guiding hand, whatever it was, I became affiliated with a nonprofit that provides affordable housing across the state of California. And I will also shamelessly just share a desktop just for a minute to make 2 quick slides hit home, because I could see various synergies with many of the people on this. So the nonprofit is called Link Housing. What they do is provide affordable housing to people that fall between the median income level in certain distressed cities. They build these houses. They're developed. They're retrofit for sustainability. And most importantly, they provide resident services on site and intensive case management on site at each of these facilities. So I'll come back to that in a second. So who they're serving is working families, singles, single parents, young adults, veterans, and at each facility, half of the population are previously homeless. So last fast slide, just to give you the scope, they have 8,700, you could think of the scale of what we can do here as a team, 8,700 apartments developed, 1,500 apartments and pre-developed. So we're talking about a scope of about 12,000 individuals across Southern California. And I'm going to shut this down right now and go back to this. With David's support, we've just started a crawl, walk, run. We're providing refurbished laptops to 2 of the Link properties. We're going to follow that on with a digital skilling curriculum. We're going to be working with these community managers at each facility to pick the right curriculum, whether it's somebody who's homeless or somebody who is at work. We're going to figure out the right curriculum. We're going to bring resources in to do some live training, and we're going to try to scale this across the breadth of Link Housing. So I'll just stop there and give a very heartfelt thank you to David for his care of and concern to attach to this initiative and to steer it. So thank you, and very happy to be on the phone with such inspiring people. So thank you. And by the way, I left Microsoft 6 weeks ago, so I am officially back as an alum, and I was a global PDM. I was on a global partner team. So one of the ideas, and which David correctly planted, is to get our partners, our largest partners, to be providing some of these refurbished laptops. We have the facility to do that. We just have to get partners. Instead of not knowing what to do to dispose with their equipment, let's funnel it through and let's provide it to people in need. So that's one of the angles of the efforts that David and I are doing. So thank you, David, for the
And
shout
Joe,
out.
thank you. I know you didn't realize I was going to pick on you. But, for Man and Holly and her team, you know, you guys did a device drive early on in the pandemic. It kind of inspired us to do a device drive, which we did. And we're still, frankly, getting devices in from folks that have surplus devices. They're just getting back to their offices and seeing that their IT closets are full of these devices that may be 2, maybe 3 years old that are perfectly usable for folks in Los Angeles to use. So if you have devices, this is the kind of stuff that VFI and Man does. We ask our partner ecosystem, the tech folks out there, wherever you work, 1 device, 2 devices, 200, 2,000. We will take those devices, we'll get them refurbished, and we will try to get them in the hands of underserved or students that might need them. And guess who has joined this call? We have a special guest star, Mr. Ryan Risley. Ryan is our chief advocate for not only IMCP, but VFI. Ryan, thank you for joining this call. You've been involved much longer than I have, as you know. I'm not gonna, in fact, Ryan, why don't you just say something, because we love to hear from you.
I didn't think you were going to say me as the name after that. I think I know most folks. Joseph, I'll send you a message about some resources for you. Yeah, I've been involved since I think I was a zygote. No, probably 8 years ago. I think Mike McMahon walked into one of our IMCP meetings talking about the sequestration and what else? All sorts of particular things that were well beyond the day-to-day sales and development opportunities that we're talking to. And I was inspired, had to learn more, and got deep in a very small but budding community. So that's where we met Hoppers and everybody else. So can't get rid of me, which is good. I do live in Washington, D.C. I can walk to the Capitol from here. And so it's good space to be if we're trying to make our elected officials know a little bit more about why tech policy matters to them. So just honored to be here. I come and go. Lately, things have been pretty busy, as you can imagine, but this is still near and dear to my heart. So I've been listening in. I finally got to where I could do video. So,
well, Ryan, thank you. You're of course being humble, and you are a super advocate, and thanks for all you do. Now, let me do this. I promised I would just frankly move to a slide and then open it up to Q&A. Let me see if I can share my screen.
David, while you're doing that, I just want to give a plug to Ryan, because he is, first of all, been a great podcast guest, but also his story about how he connected to go drive good within the world started off at a VFI event or meeting, and he got connected to an amazing nonprofit organization, did some great work there. Satya featured it on stage, I think, at one of the events. I don't know if it was Inspire or maybe it was the sales kickoff. But Ryan, I know maybe a couple words about what you did there, because it was really amazing.
Yeah, and I know a lot of partners here work in the nonprofit community. We're big supporters of the BCPA, obviously huge fans of Chaitra and Women in Cloud. It's about bringing together people with like mission and vision and cause. I mean, I work for a firm, but we are all about networking for the greater good. And we do align with the UN SDGs. So if you're not familiar with the Build for 2030 campaign, you should get involved in that. But yes, there's lots of history there. You can listen to podcasts that we did with Vince if you want to hear all about my Genesis stories. But no, it's all for the greater good.
Thank you, Vince. Instead of sharing this slide, I'm just going to read through it, because I think for the man community, these are things that you can all just kind of dive into. We talked about, well, what can man members do? Why would they even think about VFI? But frankly, you hear Joe's story about LA, and I know, Allie, you have a lot of folks in California. Maybe we can find people to actually help Joe train these folks how to get online or use the internet, or pick up some broadband access in those apartment buildings and in places where they're living at link housing. That is one way to get involved. You can also we have that program for TEALS, which is teaching, education, and literacy in classrooms. It's a Microsoft program where we look for volunteers to actually go into classrooms to teach 9th and 10th graders how to code and how to be digital warriors, at a very early age. If you don't catch them basically in grade school and early high school, you're not going to catch them in college. Those STEM careers and math and all the great stuff that leads to coding and STEM and that kind of stuff, if we do not catch them early in their schooling, it's not going to happen. So you can volunteer for those programs. There's also ways to engage in broadband. Sometimes we ask you to sign a letter to the FCC. Please change these rules so more people can get broadband. It's very simple. It never involves giving money to candidates or anything like that. It's usually just a signature or a letter to your local representative. I mentioned engaging on skilling initiatives. We need folks in LA to help Joe. We need devices. We always need devices that are sitting around, surplus devices. We will put them to use. We have a Microsoft approved refurbisher that takes those devices, nonprofit, and turns those devices back around and gets them back into the tech ecosystem. The other thing that may be of interest to some of Allie's folks is a high-speed rail corridor between Vancouver and Washington and Portland. We're working on that. This is a long haul effort to get a high-speed rail between those cities. There is some money set aside in the current broadband infrastructure bill. We don't know if it will survive. We have been sending letters from the VFI community. You may have signed one. Thank you very much. But those are the kind of things we ask you to do. Having said that, I'm going to turn off my slides and get back to Q&A. Allie, this is just open game. I haven't really been looking at the chat if Doug or Allie want to chime in on questions. I think Allie and I are both open to questions.
Absolutely. And while people are putting their questions in, I just want to mention that the Microsoft Alumni Network has a pretty expansive giving philanthropy initiative. We do volunteer matching. I should say volunteer stretching. So if you have alumni who are volunteering in your nonprofits, we will stretch and give a $10 for every volunteer hour for network members. So please go to our website and learn about that. We also have a big Giving Tuesday campaign coming up in December. We give about $300,000 annually away to alumni-led nonprofits. So if you're not engaged, you have a nonprofit, reach out to us. We would love to get you engaged as a nonprofit that benefits from some of these programs that we do. And also, all of you on the call today are going to be invited to Alum Connect. Alum Connect is our private virtual network, really an app. It's off LinkedIn, it's off of Facebook, it's off of all of the social media, and it's really our global address list for the alumni community. And we launched it just at the start of the pandemic, so we're growing our organization, but we're inviting friends of alumni, community partners like you, some of you all on the call as well, to engage where you can share your news, you can post your nonprofit or your business, you can post jobs, you can volunteer with each other, you can ask for volunteers, and Alum Connect is what it's called. I'll make sure you all get an email after this that invites you all to participate in that. And that's really your self-serve where you can engage with the alumni community whenever you need to. So I will take a look at the chat here and see if there's any questions. And Anna, please feel free to chime in if you saw some questions in the chat for us.
Yeah, and Anna mentioned something. What do you think Congress's priorities in 2022 will be, specifically in tech? And I'll just jump on that one, Allie. That's kind of my space. Look, I think we're going to see a lot of very interesting, what I would call, well, look, the DOJ tried to break apart Microsoft. It was about 15 years ago. Vince, you were probably around then. We're going to see a lot of antitrust activity in Congress. And now Microsoft currently is not in the crosshairs of those activities, but all of the other tech folks, Amazon, Google, Facebook, certainly are. That's going to impact Microsoft at some level. It could be the stock price. I don't know. I don't know how it's going to impact, but those are things that Microsoft is looking at very closely. So I will say techlash is something that we're going to see a lot of, and this community should care about that if I could just plant a seed for next year.
And if I could plant a seed real quick, if I could plant a seed, and I'd love for our alumni to even side channel me and give me your feedback. But one of the things that we're thinking about doing is doing a global annual alumni conference on campus where we bring together alumni and all of its partners, you know, the broader community, many of that are represented on this call, bringing them together into a annual conference where we can collaborate, we can design initiatives to go after for the next year, where we can influence Microsoft and gain some resources out of Microsoft. So is that something that this community, this organization, you know, this collective here would be interested in participating in?
I'll jump in, Allie, and say
Absolutely.
yeah, definitely. I think bringing the community together, you know, the alum that want to step up and build a community, I think will show up. If there's an in-person event, I think people are ripe for that, in my opinion.
Okay. Good. Sounds like we have good consensus.
And Allie, I noticed that Anna dropped in the join link for MAN. And I know that earlier, I believe Doug had dropped in the join link for VFI. We also encourage you to join folks like IAMCP. I think Jason may have dropped that at some point, but let's keep these communities knitted together if we can.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, David, you mentioned earlier, well, and on that point, I want to make sure that it's really clear. Many of people on this call are very familiar with VFI and are engaged, but if you're not, here's my action item. I always like to leave, not that we're done, but I want everyone to have an action after this. So love your perspective, David, on people can sign up at voicesforinnovation.org, correct? So if you don't get that email on a regular basis, it is a wealth of information. The second thing is, tell us about those executive briefings. Are those things that people watch? Is that a part of an email? Tell us a little bit about that.
Allie, I'd completely forgotten about that. Thank you for asking. Everyone that signs up, if you join VFI, we will send you, it's absolutely free, every Friday. We send you a very short list of tech clips that focus on our priorities. And those clips aren't always news clips. We're trying to include podcasts. I think we had Vince's. I think Vince had to drop. But we try to include podcasts or interesting and relevant content to the tech ecosystem. We usually have some blogs in there. Some of it is Microsoft specific. Like I said, you don't have to work at Microsoft to join VFI, but it is very tech centric. But it will give you a feeling on what we are focused on. And I think anybody that joined this call obviously has probably a passion for advocacy and public affairs. So I think you'll find it interesting. We'll send you that, frankly, I think starting Friday, if I'm not mistaken, Doug. And by the way,
that's
Doug,
right. Yeah, look for it on Friday.
To recognize Doug. Doug is our comms writer. He's been at VFI longer than anyone, 15 years. He writes everything for VFI. So a big hand clap for Doug, because he does all of the hard comms work and gets it all done, and frankly keeps me in check. Thank you, Doug.
Oh, well, thanks.
Doug, what is the next big action item that the alumni community can support VFI with? What should we be watching for? Is there a signature request coming soon? Should we be tweeting congressmen and women?
Well, I mean, I think David's the better one to answer that, but it's to be determined. You know, that one thing that we're, you know, the part of staying engaged is things change fast in Washington, and we're, you know, and sometimes, you know, congressmen they think they're going to vote a certain way, but they just need to hear from a few local people. Then they have voices they can say, I've heard from my community. So I think a lot of things will be emerging. One thing we're watching, I know a lot of your alums are in Washington State. We expect some possibly digital privacy legislation will be coming up next session. Other states are already talking about it. And this is, again, a place where people who have been in the tech ecosystem can really weigh in and say, you know, this is something that can work both for consumers and the business community are aligned. And instead, you know, there's too much sort of polarized talk around the issue. And that's where, again, the voice of people who are kind of experts is super important. You know, over the years, I've gone with people to meet with their legislators, and, you know, the people in the industry will come out and they say, I can't believe they really didn't understand how this piece of technology works, you know? And so that's where people can make a difference.
Yep. Good. Any other questions from our attendees?
There's a hand up over here. Let's see, who is that? Or is that?
That was yours.
That's me. Let me stop raising my hand here. Sorry about that. Hey, and Doug, you're probably the only person on the call I haven't picked on, Douglas Escher. I just wanted to welcome you to the call. I don't know you. I welcome you. I know there's a few other folks like Rob with the guitar space join. I just want to say to Rob, I used to be a rock and roll event producer, so that's why I love your stuff so much. Not doing that anymore, but it's still a passion. But Doug, thank you for joining. Doug Escher, thank you for joining, and all the others on the call. And Allie, I really wanted to thank you and your team, who are fantastic, for this opportunity today. We love working with your team, and we look forward to trying to work more closely together.
Absolutely. I'm really inspired by today. There's a lot of nonprofits that I hadn't heard about and a lot of partners, and it got me thinking about what we can do better to, as you say, knit all of these communities together to have a bigger voice and to help each other. So I'm inspired, and I hope our alumni are inspired, and I look forward to this being the first of many, many conversations.
Right. Last call for questions. It is over the hour. We like to keep our stuff on time, so thank you for your time. If there's no further questions, or if there are, reach out to Allie, myself, Doug, and we will get back to you. Once again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
RJ,
everyone.
I didn't get to pick on you, but I will.
Thanks, Allie. Thanks, David. Really appreciate it.
Eddie,
Yeah, thank
thank
you
you
guys.
for joining. Appreciate your time.